Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing a watch that is near and dear to my heart. This is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Compressor Extreme World Alarm. I own the Tides of Time variant, which is basically this watch with blue accents. You can see and you can own this one on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Master Compressor Extreme World Alarm. Now this is a rare watch on two counts. First, in the 4 years I've been doing this professionally, I have seen perhaps 50 of the Master Compressor Extreme World chronographs that came out in 2005 alongside this watch, and though they came out at the same time, having seen 50 of those, I've seen maybe 3 to 4 of these. So this was the less common model by a large margin. And of those 3 or 4, this is the first one I've seen on the optional bracelet, an expensive and deluxe appointment that was rarely requested by clients back during the mid to late 2000s heyday of the Compressor Extremes. So you're looking at a rather uncommon watch on an incredibly scarce bracelet option that truly transforms the wearing experience. Overall, this is a Swiss watch that functions like a Swiss Army knife with so many features and functions, it's a bit bewildering. So let's start with what's fundamental. Fit comes first. You can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, the watch is comfortable, though it is big. Now I wear this exact model all the time on a strap, so though it wears perfectly secure on the bracelet, I would say 16 centimeters is probably the smallest wrist that you would want to pair with this watch and the bracelet. On a strap, however, I believe you could wear it down to a wrist as small as 15 centimeters in circumference. It's a big watch. 46.3 millimeters across the round of the case from 9 to 3, not inclusive of, well, the 3 crowns and the rocker for the alarm on-off. It's thick too, at 16.4 millimeters. If you have a truly huge wrist and a suit jacket cuff of sufficient diameter to match, you might be able to wear it underneath a jacket cuff, but no dress sleeve to be sure. And frankly, very few are going to have even the jacket to hide this thing. It's massive. I will say this though, 53.9 millimeters from lug to lug across the wrist. It's about the size of a 44 millimeter Betterini case, Panerai Luminor, but when you wear it on the bracelet, you can see the bracelet extends a little bit beyond the lugs. Then it swells to 57.3 millimeters across the wrist. And yet, let me zoom out just so you get a better perspective and sense of scale. You can see that the watch wears perfectly fine and comfortable. It's secure even if the look is a bit oversized. That is an aesthetic, though, that some enjoy. So if you like a big, bold watch, this will be right up your alley. And you really need to consider this if you're considering the likes of the Rolex Deep Sea Sea Dweller, the Hublot Big Bang of any description, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshores in 42 and 44 millimeters. This watch also needs to be considered against the likes of Richard Mille, and though those generally cost 5 to 10 times the price of this actually features more technical sophistication, features, and functionality than most of those. So by dint of its spec sheet, this deserves to be considered against some pretty august comparables. Now the watch is hefty and substantial on the wrist. In spite of being titanium and steel, the impression you get is of a big steel watch. Now let me open up the bracelet. You can see this is the design that first debuted with the 1998 Reverso Grand Sport, which was a sportier take on the Reverso line. It is blessed with a very deluxe double deployant clasp, which first features 4 separate triggers, so you really have to want this open for it to deploy completely. It cannot pop open, it's not clamshell, it's not friction fit, very secure, also fairly low in profile when closed. It's no thicker than the bracelet itself. Deploy it, and you can see on the inside, fully finished with no burrs from machining, no lines from stamping. There's nothing raw or industrial, even on the interior of the clasp. It features 2 half links in Rolex. I'm sorry, I'm going to steal the nomenclature, but it's basically like Rolex Easy Link with the equivalent of 1/2 a sizable link contained in each side of the clasp. So if you deploy both of them, it's like adding a single sizable link. And if you were to bring both of them in, it would be like removing a sizable link. So you can add or you can subtract by deploying or retracting the sizable link surrogate built into the clasp. So to a certain extent, you can adjust without a tool. Now, one feature that does show some of the age of this inherent design is the use of pins and sleeves. Now, Patek still does that with the Nautilus, but for almost everyone else, time has passed this system by. Today, screws are used on most premium bracelets. It doesn't affect the feel of the bracelet, which feels quite hefty and tough, and in service, these have proven to be very durable and secure. One advantage of the system is that some will say, and Patek will say, that the pin and sleeve system is less likely to back itself out in the course of enthusiastic and vigorous use, and that is true, but for me the bigger advantage here is that every single individual link on both sides of the bracelet features the pin and sleeve for sizing, so you can get a very precise sizing by removing as many or as few links as you like, plus those two half-link equivalents built into the clasp. Now, the watch on a strap is easy to wear, but the watch on the bracelet is nicely integrated. As you can see, the end link tucks neatly into the lugs, so it looks more all of a piece, and I think it looks more natural with the bracelet in place, even if it is a serious chunk of stainless steel. But don't sell it short, because it also features titanium. You can see the contrast between the brushed titanium center case on both sides and the polished steel. So grade 5 titanium and 316 steel. The combination of the two is because the inner case and the outer case are separate components. This is a highly shock-resistant case. That's why you had the Master Compressors, and then you had the Master Compressor Extremes. This is one of the Extremes. Let me refocus a second so we can move farther away from the camera and stay sharp. But that separate case structure is defined by a break between the two, where JLC has sandwiched in shock absorbers. So between the inner case and the outer case, there are shock absorbers. I have tossed this, well, not this specific watch, but mine, off a table onto a carpeted floor. I've gone mountain biking with it. I've crashed mountain bikes while wearing it. The shock resistance system works. Again, one of the reasons I compare this to a Richard Mille is because that's an often advertised advantage of most of Richard Mille's watches. Here you're getting it for a fraction of the money, and again, field tested, not by reputation, but by practice. This is a watch that also features world time, and of course, it's a very vocal alarm. The caliber 912 inside this watch was the first of the new generation of JLC alarm calibers, immediately preceding and actually informing the design of the caliber 956 that launched with the tribute to Polaris in 2008. So instead of the traditional Memovox, which essentially just strikes against the case back or the case band, this has a separate hanging gong that's able to resonate. It has a sweet tone and sustain to it, and it's also quite a bit louder than the JLC alarms that came before. So yeah, on your dresser, this will absolutely wake you up in the morning. Because the watch is so huge, the dial is spread out, and it allows all of these calibrations and functions to breathe and be more legible. They have a world time reference ring outboard with 24 cities for 24 principal time zones. You put your current city at 6 o'clock, so I'm in Philadelphia, so I'm on New York time, US East Coast. And now, so New York corresponds to what you see at center, so it's about 16 minutes after, okay, 7. But is that 7 p.m. or is that 7 a.m.? Well, I can see, looking next to New York, I see that hour 19 has just passed. So hour 19 plus 16, that's 7 p.m., that's 7:16. So I have the AM-PM distinction, or rather day-night distinction, for the entire world, courtesy of these two semicircles, one in red for night and one in white for day. And all I do is I read the minutes at center and I read the hour adjacent to any given reference city, and immediately I have the whole world in my hand, or maybe I should say on my wrist. You also have a double digital setting system for the alarm, which is a quite precise and elaborate way of setting an alarm, such that I found that I can set mine to within about 2 or 3 minutes of the time I actually want it to go off, which is the best resolution I've achieved with an alarm watch. And you can see the double scrolling system. Minutes and hours scroll on 2 separate discs at different rates. It's easy to set because you have this horizontal translucent red bar that acts as the index, so you know exactly what you're queuing up. All of the indices are hand-applied, diamond-polished, and white gold to match the white gold trapeze and counterweighted lancet seconds at center with triangular red arrow index. The watch features a handsome aperture around the double digital indication for the alarm and a matching aperture around the date. One feature that does make me scratch my head is the printing of the word date next to the date. I think I could have guessed that without the tutorial, but Hey, I guess luxury is about getting more than you bargained for. Now, the dial is also handsome with a slight gloss to its black base, galvanized, nicely executed with a transfer printed Jaeger-LeCoultre corporate marquee but an applied logo. The watch also features a crown that is both color-coded for white you're tight and red you're dead, and this is for both of the compressor crowns. The compressor crown system is a half turn to lock and a half turn to unlock. And now I can wind, I can set the watch. In fact, since I appear to have engaged the quick set, I'm going to show you how that works. Pull the crown out at 2 o'clock, and you can both adjust the quick set date system, and when scrolling in the opposite direction, you can adjust the alarm. The system is color-coded, so red you're dead and white you're tight, so it's very hard to take the plunge with the crowns unsecured. This is quite different from something like the screw-down system pioneered and still used by Rolex. Since the 1920s, that's been the primary crown locking system for most water-resistant watches. The compressor crown system from the early 2000s and panorized device protecting the crown with the locking lever are two answers to the question of how you can make the crown easier to use, but just as watertight. When your hands are wet, sweaty, or gloved, this easily passes the test. Now, another feature that I love about this watch, and this is why you want to buy it on the bracelet, because it's so easy to simply remove it and put it on a strap if that's your preference, while keeping the bracelet in the box to retain value for your investment. The system is quite easy to use, as you just pull the trigger and it releases the lug. So you can use standard straps with aftermarket 22mm spacing and spring bars. You don't need a proprietary strap for this quick release system, making it different from IWC, Cartier, making it different from Hublot, and everyone else like Vacheron using a proprietary release system for a quick release. You actually wind up in a bit of a straitjacket commercially because you have to buy factory options or nothing. Here, you can quite simply just take off this bracelet, put it aside, and throw it on any aftermarket strap that suits your fancy. And what's inside the case is impressive. Now, the compressor crowns in this instance grant 100 meters of water resistance. So inside that highly water resistant and shock resistant case is the caliber 912. So 45-hour power reserve, automatic winding, a new generation architecture. It's free sprung for durability and the ability to take and hold a precise regulation in the face of bumps, disruptions, and shocks. It also features a hairspring that's laser welded at the stud and the collet for absolute security against displacement due to shock. It features a unidirectional winding system with ceramic rotor bearings, the two features contributing substantially to enhanced efficiency over the previous bidirectional winding system with steel bearings seen on the previous generation of Memovox 918 calibers. Now, it also features a spire-cut gear profile that was developed with Jaeger-LeCoultre's partners in the industry, but along with those partners, it is a proprietary technology used by JLC in its own movement, so you get some operational improvements in efficiency in the train. The watch also features that separate hanging gong for the rich and loud alarm tone, as well as hacking seconds, the quick set date, and the world time. All told, it's an awful lot, oscillating at 28,800 vibrations per hour. Again, very closely related to the 956. If you've heard that in something like the Navy SEALs diving alarm, then you know exactly what you're in for. A rich watch, chock-a-block with features. You can see and you can own this one and the bracelet on our website.